I was just kind of curious, and before we got on here, I counted to see how many different statuses there are on the MLS. There are 16 different statuses
Oh
that
my
a
God.
property can be listed as.
Hey everyone, it's James. I'm here with Laura Rogers of River Trail Properties. Today we're talking about real estate terms, take backups, escape clause, back on market. We'll unpack all of these and more right now. We're going to talk a little bit about terminology because there's a lot of words in real estate that get thrown around and everyone just kind of assumes that everybody knows what this means. And sometimes you're like, oh yeah, under contract. And then, okay, what exactly does that mean? Or what is escape clause? Does that mean I don't have to do anything or what? So yeah, Laura, if you can kind of walk us through some of the myth and the facts with these
You
terms.
bet. I was just kind of curious, and before we got on here, I counted to see how many different statuses there are on the MLS. There are 16 different statuses that
Oh my
a
God.
property can be listed as. Really, let's just talk about a few of the ones that we see on a regular basis that are going to affect most people. And those are going to be like active, new listing, back on market, price change, escape clause. And then the big one is taking backup.
Taking backups. I'm seeing that a lot right now.
Right. So those are the ones that the MLS uses. But let's just say you're not on the MLS and you're using Redfin or Trulia, or the ones that I kind of spent some time researching were Zillow, Realtor.com, iHouse Web, which is who hosts my website,
Yeah.
Redfin, and Trulia. So I took a listing of mine, a 101 King Pine. This house went on the market and immediately went under contract as taking backup. So these sellers wanted to give the opportunity that if more people wanted to write an offer on the house, that they could prior to the house having had the inspection and having been appraised. Okay. So this house is now taking backup. So when I go to Zillow and look, it's listed as still for sale. I go to Realtor.com, it's listed as contingent. I go to my website, which is hosted by iHouse Web, and it's listed as under contract / backups. I go to Redfin, and there's somebody wanting to make an appointment. I go to Redfin, and it's accepting backups. And I go to Trulia, and it's for sale. So we have all these different statuses that the public sees. So of course it makes for just incredible confusion. And some people get angry because they're like, well, why can't we see it? It still says that it's active. And when it's taking back up, technically the Arkansas Realtor Association has been pretty hardcore about if you still list as taking backups, your sellers do need to be accepting appointments for showings.
Got it. So even though it says taking backups, you have an accepted offer, they still need to understand that you're probably going to get showings through the showing services, and you're going to have to jump in your pajamas and take off on a Saturday because everybody still wants to see it. And I mean, go back 3, 4, 5 years ago. When someone would put taking backups, did you still have that same effect, or was it like, oh, taking backups? Let's not mess with it. Let's find something else.
Much more so.
Okay.
And in this market, because there are so many showings, a lot of people are skipping taking backup and just going straight to under contract. Because so a new listing, well, I just listed one, and showing start Friday. I think there's a 30-minute time slot between 9 a.m. and 8 p.m. And so these people, they're tired of being out of their houses. So it's like, we're just done. We're going to be gone for the weekend. Let showings happen. And then come Monday, we don't want to leave unless it's for the inspection or for the appraisal.
Well, I know that taking backups does have some standing in it, because there are, I've seen this happen with a lot of listings where it hits, it's under contract, and then like a week later back on market. And you're
So
kind of
let's
like,
talk about that. My go-to title company and lenders that I've talked with are saying that it's between 25 and 30% of contracts on homes are falling through.
wow.
Typically are going to fall through in the past, or it was mostly due to finance. They really didn't qualify. Or B, the inspection didn't go well. What we're seeing more even now is people were getting the house under contract without seeing it. They now come to see the house. And it's like, oh, those pictures look a lot better than it really is in person. Or sure wish it had a scratch and sniff because it doesn't quite smell like what I anticipated. So deals are falling through much more than they were a couple of years ago.
Well, that makes sense though. Especially people are tying up a contract sight unseen and then coming in and going, oh yeah, not what I expected.
Right.
So,
And so this new listing, they've decided that they do not want to accept any offers that have not been seen by the client or at a minimum by their agent.
wow. Well, from personal experience, before we built this house, when we put ours up for sale, it was at the beginning of everything accelerating. And we were one of the scenarios where the sign went in the yard late Friday night. We had prepped everything. Pictures are in. We're good to go. Showing started, I think 7:30 in the morning or 8. I don't know. We all were in our pajamas and we went to Chick-fil-A and had breakfast, and we couldn't come home until 4 because there's 30-minute blocks of showings, just boop, 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 boop. So we just drove around town, came back, and there was already a contract in. And then we're like, okay, this is good. And then there was a backup contract that came in, and we're like, okay, we've never had a backup contract, but if they want to go with that, then okay, sure, fine, why not? At the end of it, the whole deal, the primary contract ended up falling out, and the backup was actually even higher than the original contract. So, I mean, we weren't rooting for it because we're like, hey, we're in a win spot anyway. But this is not bad. It's not a bad deal.
No, I've seen that as a broker, even with a listing that one of the agents had this year. It was about a 70,000 span from the original accepted contract to the one that was the backup.
Wow.
So backups are not a bad way to go.
Not
Definitely,
at all.
Definitely is something that's underutilized.
So let's talk about there are a couple of terms that seem to compete against each other or cause some confusion. And me personally, escape clause is one, contingent is another, because a lot of times I look at those and I'm like, isn't that the same thing? And maybe that's just me not really understanding what they are and then what's the difference between them.
So, okay. So contingent, the only place I found contingent used was with realtor.com.
Okay.
And contingent was when it was taking backups.
Gotcha.
So go to realtor.com for under contract and it uses the word pending. And the MLS doesn't use contingent or pending.
Wow. So there's a terminology gap, and then you've got the lag time between one system updating and another. So
right. Yes. And Zillow is typically about 2 hours behind.
Okay.
The others I don't follow as much, I'm not looking at them as often, so I don't really know a time on those, but up to about 24 hours, they should be up to date.
Got it. Okay. Well, that makes sense. And that's probably why I'd seen more contingent as opposed to anything else. So, escape clause, let's kind of unpack that one, because I think that also confuses people when they hear it. Okay.
So escape clause would be, let's say that somebody wants to purchase the house, but they can't maybe sell it because they need to sell theirs first.
Okay.
So they need to sell theirs first. Either maybe it could be that they have the money, but they don't want to spend the money right then. They want to be able to sell their other one. Yeah. Or they can't get a loan without theirs sold. So they put an offer. Usually it's a little bit sweeter than a typical offer because you're asking for somebody to accept their offer, with it being an escape clause. So this escape clause would typically allow for 24 to 48 hours if another offer comes in for that original buyer to purchase it without the contingency.
Okay.
Now, some offers are an escape clause that are binding. So, for instance, I have a client right now that's under contract, and there isn't a 24 or 48-hour clause. He has until a certain date that he can sell his house and purchase it.
Okay.
That buyer agreed to do that, but that's not always the case. Typically, it's it is not binding. We're not seeing a whole lot of contingent offers in this market. I can count on one hand how many I've had, submitted this since the beginning of the year.
Oh my goodness. I imagine with things going so fast, it's kind of like the pendulum has gone the complete opposite way. And they're like, why would I even do that when I have 5 other people lined up to see it and they want to pay over my asking price right now?
And pay for the seller's closing cost.
Right. Ah.
So that's another, odd thing about this market. We went from, a few years ago where it was pretty standard place to see a seller paying for some of buyers' closing costs.
Yep.
And now it's not uncommon to see a buyer offering to pay for some of the seller's closing cost.
Oh, wow. What other terms cause any question or confusion with people?
Let's see. I would say just under contract.
Under contract.
Under contract. So once something is listed in the MLS as under contract, that pretty much shuts down showings. A seller can still allow for showings, but they're pretty rare.
Yeah.
And really it's I think a conservation of time. Why as an agent probably don't want to go show a house that's under contract or write an offer on a house that's already under contract. So the under contract can also be in other systems, can be written as pending. In this one that I looked at, Redfin didn't even have that it was listed. It didn't even pick it up. So sometimes you can have it where one of the major, Zillow, Realtor just won't even have it picked up.
So that's a lesson for everybody is,
Yes.
Scouring Zillow is a nice thing, but agents still do have insight into what's really going on.
Yes. And the best bet is really to have your agent put you on the collaboration centers just list so that you get them up to date. Your agent can set it where you get listings as soon as they pop on the market. So what I do with my clients, I have it where they immediately want something within their parameter that we set. Maybe we're looking somewhere between 200 and 300,000 in areas 017 and which is West Little Rock. And they want it to be 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So something immediately hits that's going straight to them. It's going straight to me.
Yeah.
But then if it went under contract, I also have it set so that if it falls through, they immediately get it's back on market. So that's one that we should talk about. Back on market.
Back on market.
Yes, because we see a lot of that. Again, we have 30% of them falling through.
Mm-hmm.
The back on market means the first contract didn't take. It didn't take either through financing. It didn't take because of maybe the inspection didn't go well, or they just didn't like the house once they came to see it. Because they did the scratch and sniff. So that is a great time to immediately get a showing scheduled. Or it could be that you already saw it and you didn't get an offer in soon enough and it's submit an offer.
Wow. And just kind of going back again, a couple of years ago, back on market almost had what's wrong with the house feel to it.
And now it's like you get, giddy. It's like, oh yes, something's back on market.
I've got another shot.
Yeah.
Mean there's still a chance.
But you're right. It was like the big red A before, wearing, that, oh no, what was wrong with it? And now rarely do I get the text, what was wrong with this house? It's Okay. Any more offers in? Because we want to.
Well, and the collaboration center that you mentioned, that is such a fantastic tool because, like you said, you get the original hit of, hey, this is on the market, but then you also get those updates. And so if you're trying to coordinate, let's go see it or whatever, and then you get the notice, oh, it's already under contract. All right, well, it's not even go out there. So,
and it also has price change. So I also have it where if something was priced maybe a little too high from the beginning, that once there's been a change, clients also get that immediate hit.
Yep. And that's another term that pops up every now and again is price change. I mean, it's pretty straightforward with what it is, but you might see agents try and spin it like price correction or price adjustment. And
what's interesting in this market is price change used to mean a reduction in price.
Right.
We are seeing more homes increased in purchase price.
Wow.
With this price change.
Wow. So they get it on the market and realize, oh, no, hang on. We can do a little better. It's amazing.
I still think that in Little Rock or Central Arkansas, it's still a good time to buy.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, there are some crazy purchases out there, but there's still some reasonable purchases. And I feel like our values had been down for so many years that we're now where it should be in comparison to across the country.
Thanks so much for watching. Now, before you leave, we need your help. We need a name for this show, for our YouTube channel and for our podcast. We have a few ideas, but we really want your opinion. So leave your suggestions for the No Name River Trail Property Show down in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed the show or you learned anything, let us know. Be sure to share this with your friends. And again, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.